Beard Wizard family, welcome back to Beard Wizard Reviews. I'm your host, Beard Wizard Man, also known as Trevor on social media. Links to all of which you can find in the video description below, including ways to support this channel. Biggest way to support this channel though right now is we are almost at our goal of 2,000 subscribers by April. We are literally like, I think last I checked we are 8. I'm going to look real quick, see if that's updated. We might even be closer than that. Last I looked we were 8 subscribers. We are 5 subscribers away from 2,000. Thank you everybody who has subscribed to the channel. I really appreciate it. It means the world to me that many people care about what I say and want to be notified when I get, when I post live that you are interested in the shows. That means so much to me. Most of the content on this show is meant to highlight independent creators, musicians, content creators, writers, artists, and things like that, and a lot of support goes to that. Obviously, I like my gaming and I like my other geek stuff, but I'm an independent author myself, and really supporting that is one of the main motivations of this channel. Not just the fact that I enjoy talking to you guys and I enjoy sharing my thoughts and doing all this, and I love doing it live. That's why we do it the way we do it. That's why no two shows are the same. The other thing to support, you're going to notice there's a link at the very top of the video description. That link is going to stay in every video until March for the Stop Soldier Suicide fundraiser that I'm working on. It's a charity dog walk, 30-mile dog walk through March, but also raising money for suicide awareness and prevention for veterans and soldiers. It's very important to me. If you cannot donate, I totally understand. Please share the link out there at least. Please put it on your social media for me. Share it on anything, anywhere you want. Hopefully we can raise some money to help this important cause. So today, I try to do these once a week. I don't always get it in. It does take a little more prep work to do these, and I've been very busy at work the last couple of weeks with new trainees. So it took me a couple weeks to get this one worked up, but I'm going to do a comic book review tonight. We're going to take a look at the comic White Owl. Talk about it. I'll kind of give you a breakdown of what I think, whether I recommend it or not, what I think about what I saw in the book and what's coming. There is a link in the video description for where you can read issue 1 that we're going to talk about, and the socials for the creators. So you can follow them. They are working on I think they have issue 2 on GoFundMe or Kickstarter. Let me verify that before I speak incorrectly about this. And like I said, this is a live show, so this may be a little bit not what you're used to. White Owl issue number 2 is currently being worked on. The pre-launch Kickstarter is up. You can sign up on, so if you go to their Twitter, which is linked in the video description below, the very top posted or pinned tweet leads to the Kickstarter for issue 2, which is currently being worked on. And so yeah, you can check that out if you are interested. It looks like issue 2 is going to broaden this universe we're about to talk about. So this book is from writer-creator Robert Rodriguez, art by Jonathan Espinoza, colors and letters by Roberto. I'm sorry, the writer and creator is Roberto Rodriguez. I think I said Robert. Colors and letters by Roberto Rodriguez, and there is a Slay variant cover by, I can't read the font. Looks like Abnerlin Bueno, I believe, is who did the variant cover. So there's your cast of creators in this particular book. We'll talk about what I thought about the writing, the art, and all that as we go forward. So initially, I was going through the books that I have to review, and initially this one kind of caught my eye because of the title. I've seen a few posts from social media. I'm checking my notes here. I don't want to miss anything. Make sure I cover everything. I'd seen a couple posts from the creators that intrigued me about the story and about their plans for the story going forward. It's an indie superhero book, which is also, there's a lot of There's a lot of people out there trying to do superhero books, but there's also a lot of people out there avoiding superhero books because obviously the comic market is flooded with superhero books. And it's tough to compete in that market with the big publishers. I haven't really been following Marvel and DC. Obviously, I see posts, and I know I've been a Marvel fan, or had been a Marvel fan for quite a long time. But they're still the heavy hitters in the market when it comes to superhero books. So a lot of indies feel like they need to go a different route. They need to do something like a detective book, or like cyberpunk stuff, or they pull out other genres and they do something different because they want to avoid sort of that having to compete with the big two, the big three. And I can I can understand that. Like that's a tough market to compete in with superhero books. But these guys are taking it head on, which kind of interested me too. I wanted to see how, when an indie company or indie artists decide to take on the superhero genre, I always want to see how they attack it, because so much of it has just been done already by Marvel, by DC, by Image. And so coming up with unique original storylines, I mean, even Marvel, DC don't do it that much. You got to hand it to even Image. Dark Horse also, they come out with new stuff all the time, but Marvel and DC seem to rehash the same stuff over and over again and really lean on their legacy lines like Batman, Superman, the X-Men, Fantastic Four. And as much as I love the X-Men, growing up reading them, there's only so much you can do now with those characters and those stories to do something unique, and a lot of times it's just a rehash of what they've already done. So I love to see what indies can do and how they approach this genre in a unique way. And some of them do very well, and some of them don't. So we'll see what I think about what this one does. Initially, the cover, and I like to talk about the cover, especially on indie books, because the cover is so important to set yourself apart, to draw your audience in, to sort of hook them initially. Honestly, the cover didn't sell me on this one. The cover's not bad. It's not a terrible cover. It's got great color. It's eye-catching. It obviously features the character, which you want, but it's a little static for me. I would have liked something where the character was more face-on. Maybe you're getting more of the suit or an action scene, something that's a little more dynamic. To me, the cover's a little static. And again, it's not a bad cover, but it doesn't really set itself apart from anything else out there. It doesn't scream pick me up. And quite honestly, if I hadn't seen the other things that I had seen from the creators, if I hadn't seen the other posts, if I was just scrolling by this cover, it wouldn't catch my eye. And so that's something I would like to see the creators. I don't know if they already have their cover for issue 2 or what they plan to do in the future, but I'd like to see them do covers. Like, again, you're an indie company, you're an indie creator, and you're trying to compete in a saturated market against giants. Your cover has to scream open me. It has got to be the first thing, and I think I don't know for sure exactly why some companies don't put as much time into the cover, whether it be they just don't feel it's as important, or they don't have the money, or whatever it might be. But that cover has got to be just, it's got to blow you away. I do like the color use. The color palette of the cover is very eye-catching, and also I don't hate the font but it seems a little lost, I guess you could say. Even the issue number 1, it's just kind of almost looks pasted on the image. And obviously I've made book covers for my own books, and that's what you're doing. You're pasting the text over it. But I would like to see the text feel like it's part of the art, feel like it's part of the background or whatever. So overall, the cover's kind of okay, but that's not the whole book. So just in the initial impression. That's kind of what I got from that. The story itself is interesting. I enjoyed the approach that they took with the how they jumped into the superhero genre. So you're getting sort of in this world, it feels like superhumans are just now starting to emerge or come to the light. It doesn't say specifically that the character that we're looking at or this generation of superhumans is the first ones, but we get the impression that whether they are or not the first superhumans, the rest of the world did not know superhumans were a thing until we sort of get thrown into this world. It's also, I like the approach because it's kind of like an origin story, but not, because we're not getting, you don't find out how he gets his powers in this book. You don't see like a montage of training, or you don't see him get bit by a radioactive animal or any of that stuff. It's more just kind of, you jump into the middle of this guy who is doing his vigilante thing, and he doesn't even have his suit yet. So that's kind of where I'm saying it's a bit of an origin story, because you're seeing where, I mean, he's not even called White Hal initially in the book, until about halfway through, or maybe a third of the way through. I'm not sure exactly which page it's on, but so you're seeing him become the White Owl, but at the beginning he's already got his powers. He's already doing the vigilante thing. He's always doing already doing the crime fighting thing, and so I like that. It's a cool play on the origin story, sort of storyline that you get in comic books, which is cool, because they could have very easily wasted an entire issue or several panels on, he grew up and then, something happened that gave him powers, or he was an experiment in a lab. Like, they didn't do any of that. They just kind of jump in and say, hey, he's got powers and here's what he's doing with them. It follows a superhuman, obviously, like we said, and we see him get his code name. We see him get his suit in this issue. We also get to see some of his home life. He's got a girlfriend, I believe he lives with. I get the impression they live together, and we see some of that. We see some of the how does his girlfriend sort of help him with what he does. She knows he's a vigilante. She knows he's superhuman, and she's kind of trying to help him safely do what he does, which is kind of neat. We're kind of seeing almost, I would almost compare it to, like, the dynamic in some of the older Spider-Man stuff with Spider-Man and Mary Jane. When she knew he was Spider-Man, he would go home and they would talk about his day as if it were going to work, and they would talk about, how his day as Spider-Man versus his day as the professor or as the newspaper photographer or whatever it was, depending on the, the era of Spider-Man you're reading. And I thought I was reminded right away in this story of Highlander, of the Highlander movie, and maybe it's because I've been seeing a lot about the Highlander and then looking a little bit about the reboot and stuff, but it felt like that initially, because it starts out with this unique individual that we believe, or we're led to believe, is like the only one of his kind, but then they slowly start to reveal, well, there's more, but there's not many more, and the rest of the world doesn't really know that they exist. And so it kind of has that sense that Highlander had originally, if that makes sense to you. Dialogue was really good. We'll look at an example panel here in a second. I thought the story built through the dialogue was pretty good, though I do feel like it could have used some more editing. There were some sentences, some structure that didn't click right away, and I feel like it's because maybe there was a word missing, or there was a misused word in a couple places that made it confusing. Not a ton, not like every page or every panel, not even remotely that close, but there was just a couple of places where I had to really kind of think about what they were trying to say, in a panel, and so I think it could have used a pass with another editor, or the editor if they used an editor, the editor they used maybe could have used another pass on it, but not overly so, not really terrible. And I know how it is, and hopefully the creator takes this in the way that it is meant. It is not a knock on the book at all. Itself. The storyline is very well crafted, and the dialogue is well crafted. It's just, I know how it is. I when I wrote my first book, when I wrote Embers of Liberty, I edited and I wrote, edited, changed things up, edited over and over and over again. And then I submitted it to get published. I got my first, author copy back, and I went through the author copy, and I looked for obvious issues, and I edited, and then I submitted it. And when I finally finalized everything, and I got the books, the finalized books back, the first thing I did was just start flipping through it. And as soon as I opened to a page, I found that I misspelled the name of a character, like 20 pages into the book or something stupid. So I totally understand what it's like because you miss that stuff so easily, and then when you find it after the fact, you're like, oh man, like that's out there now, that's done. And so it's a frustrating thing for an indie, but something that the creators definitely want to think about going forward is making sure that if they are using an editor, to make a couple of passes and maybe have a couple of other people look it over too. And if they're not using an editor, which I don't pay an editor, maybe have a couple of other people really go through it with a fine-tooth comb, because being the writer, especially if the writer is doing the editing, which may be the case here, you know what it was supposed to mean. And this is advice I would give for any writer who's doing their own editing. You know what you meant. You wrote it. When you write and then read your own writing, your brain's going to automatically fill in the blanks. You're going to skip over things. You know what you meant. I knew how to spell Jerome's name in my book, but I spelled it wrong and I didn't catch it because my brain knew what it was supposed to be, so it sort of glossed over the typo. So that's some advice I would give the creator if they are doing their own editing, is make sure you have other people go through it and have them read it aloud. Don't read it in your head, and don't tell them. I don't care. Tell them. I don't care how silly it sounds. Read it out loud to yourself, because the human brain is really good at filling in the blanks when you're reading to yourself. But when you read out loud, you'll hear it back, and that's when you'll start to hear the things that don't make sense or the words that are missing. That I cannot stress enough how important it is. I even use that at work with the staff in my department. When they're reading through technical documentation and processes and things, I tell them to make sure that they read it. If they struggle and they miss things, I say read it out loud, because your brain is really good at trying to save you time. And saving time on a technical document, or saving time when you're trying to edit a story, is not actually a good thing. So very important. So when we talk about the art, I'll show you the one thing, so that if the creators, maybe it'll help them know what to look for too. So again, don't take this as a total knock on the book. The book has some great stuff in it. So we'll talk about the art here in a little bit. I'm going to try to expand this to fit the screen. All right, so we're going to take a look at this. So in what I was looking at in the dialogue specifically, and then we'll talk about the art here in a second, is, and you may not even be able to see it because I can barely read it too. I passed right by it. There was a panel where there was a word missing, and it made it really difficult to tell what they were trying to say. And I think it's when White Owl is talking to the cops. Yeah. So Yeah, now I can't find it. But there was it's only a matter of time. Yeah, so it was this top right panel here on the left page. It says it was only a matter of time before skilled individuals as yourself got useful for themselves. I have a feeling that they meant individuals such as yourself. And then I'm not sure about the word usage for got useful for themselves. Um, and there could be many reasons for that. And again, I don't want this to sound like I'm knocking the book itself. There's just a couple of moments, a couple of places where I think they definitely want to focus on their editing and take a look at that. It will just make the book that much stronger. But overall, good dialogue, good story. I enjoyed reading it, and I'm curious to see where they go, especially when they started hinting at other superhumans and other people out in the world that are similar to him, similar to this White Hell character. And so I like that they hook you at the end, which is also very important. You want to make them get that next issue, so you need to leave your audience with something that makes them want to go to the next issue. The art overall is good. I wouldn't say it's amazing, but it is good. The action, the movement in the panels also translates very well, which is a hard thing to do with still images. I talk about that a lot when I do these. There are some books that I just don't review because all of the images look very static, very motionless, very devoid of sort of life or animation. And I mean, obviously, it's a still image. It's a drawing. It's not a cartoon. It's not a movie. It's not anything moving. So you've got to make this still image look like it's moving, and that can be a challenge especially for newer artists who are just getting started and just trying to put their book out there. I liked the use of color, even though, we're dealing with a character with a white suit. A lot of the scenes are at night. They use a lot of good shadow, a lot of good background to sort of give this character some contrast. Because, again, an all-white suit, that's tough to do. I mean, there's only a few comic books out there that I can think of off the top of my head where, your main character is in an all-white suit. I mean, I can really only think of two right off from Marvel, and of course I'm gonna Cloak and Dagger being one of the books, and then I can't shoot the name of the other one escapes me, but they made the Disney Plus show about him, the Egyptian sort of god that takes over the guy. I cannot remember the name of that character, but yeah, so it's not very common. So that was also sort of a tricky decision to use a character in an all-white suit, because it sort of limits what you can do. I'm sure they found that challenging, because you have to be really good with your highlights, with your shadows and everything to give that character definition, because you can't do that with colors and splitting the costume across different sort of color schemes and patterns and things like that. It's really all white with a very little like gold trim. But overall, I liked it. I liked looking through the book. It's a good looking book. The art was pretty decent in most places. In the panel use, you can see they use different size, different shapes, panels. They inlaid some and some without border. It made the book interesting to go through, rather than just having kind of the same size panels and the same format and everything. They mixed it up a little bit, which kept the book looking different from page to page. It kept it interesting. It kept it dynamic, which is very important. If you go back and look at older comic books before they really started doing this, it was, they'd have like 3 or 4 different size panels throughout the whole book, and they really just kept reusing the same sort of format over and over and over again, because that's what worked and that's what made it easy. But as comic books evolved and started changing that up a little bit, I think it made them a little more interesting to go through, not just as a storybook, but as an art book and as overall a graphic novel. So I enjoyed that about the art. So overall, it's a good book. I thought the story was good. The dialogue was good. I liked where they jumped in. I liked what they did as sort of addressing the origin story without doing the same thing that everybody else does. I'm going to expand that a little more because I made it smaller than it needed to be. So good book. I did enjoy it. I thought it was overall worth reading. There's a link in the video description below. You can actually read the first issue for free on Comixology. I don't know. The link's there, so you can go to the link and read the book. I can't remember which comic host it's on, but it's on one of the hosting sites for comic books. There is some adult themes in there, but they're not. I would say more like PG-13. There's no outright nudity, but there is some sort of sexual scenes in there, a couple places, but nothing graphic, nothing I would consider like R-rated or anything. So an appropriate book for teenagers and up. And again, I'm interested to see where they go with this next. I think they've got a cool idea, a cool, interesting universe that they're starting to build. Hopefully it's still very new. It seems early stages, at least for issue 1. They're not giving us a whole lot of world building. They're giving us just enough to help the plot, to keep the story moving. So I hope they're not taking the same route as, books like The Boys or, not that there's anything wrong with The Boys or any of the books along that line, but I hope they go a unique route rather than, sometimes you try to go too unique and you just go so off the rails that it's too weird or too strange, or you just wind up copying somebody else who also tried to do something unique. So I'm curious to see where the world goes, how they build this universe up with these superhumans, how they get exposed to the rest of the world. I think that'll be an interesting story that they're crafting here. And this character Slay, the only other critique of it is the name didn't work for me. The bad guy in this, his name is Slay. It just sounds strange, and I'm not sure if it's language barrier or what, but it's just, I don't know. It didn't sort of scream like superhero villain to me, but who knows? Maybe we'll find out more about this character that will give him a little bit more to go on. But initially, he's sort of like an 80s action bad guy. He's got the flat top, he's got the guns, he's got the henchmen. I very much get a like 80s action bad guy vibe off of the villain in this book. So cool villain. I'm not sure about the name, but that's okay. Still a cool villain, still a cool story, cool action. So yeah, check it out. I think it's worth looking at. Definitely, you can read the first issue for free. If you like it, if you're interested in the world, definitely go to their Twitter page and sign up. Check out the Kickstarter. See if issue 2 has more that you're interested in, and give these guys a look. I think it's well worth it. So yeah, that's it for White Owl from me. Check out the links in the video description below to go to their social media pages. Make sure you subscribe here. We just need 5 more to get to our goal of 2,000. So every little click helps. Share it out there, and also share or donate to the Stop Soldier Suicide fundraiser, which is also linked below. I would really appreciate it. That's all for today. I will be back tomorrow with some new music and hopefully gaming, and this weekend some gaming and all kinds of other cool content. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you. I'll see y'all again soon. You have a great one. Much love. Bye.